Why are misheard lyrics called Mondegreens? My sister has a rare talent for mishearing lyrics. When we were younger, song meanings would often morph into something quite different from their original intent. In one Wallflowers hit, for instance, she somehow turned me and Cinderella into the incinerator. It is actually a common phenomenon with the curious name Montegrin. Montagrin means a misheard word or phrase that makes sense in your head, but is in fact entirely incorrect. The term Montegrin is itself a Montegrin. In November 1954, Sylvia Wright, an American writer, published a piece in Harper's where she admitted to a gross childhood mishearing. When she was young, her mother would read to her from the Reliques of Ancient English Poetry, a 1765 book of popular poems and ballads. Her favorite verse began with the lines, "Ye Highlands and ye Lowlands, oh where hae ye been? They hae slain the Earl o' Murray and Lady Montegrin." Except they hadn't. They left the poor Earl and laid him on the green. He was, alas, all by himself. Hearing is a two-step process. First, there is the auditory perception itself, the physics of sound waves making their way through your ear and into the auditory cortex of your brain. And then there is the meaning making, the part where your brain takes the noise and imbues it with significance. Mondegreens occur when, somewhere between the sound and the meaning, communication breaks down. You hear the same acoustic information as everyone else, but your brain doesn't interpret it the same way. What's less immediately clear is why, precisely, that happens. The simplest cases occur when we just mishear something. It's noisy and we lack the visual cues to help us out. Basically, anytime we can't see the mouth of the speaker. One of the reasons we often mishear song lyrics is that there's a lot of noise to get through, and we usually can't see the musicians' faces. Other times, the misperceptions come from the nature of the speech itself. For example, when someone speaks in an unfamiliar accent, or when the usual structure of stresses and inflections changes, as it does in a poem or a song. What should be clear becomes ambiguous, and our brain must do its best to resolve the ambiguity. Human speech occurs without breaks. When one word ends and another begins, we don't actually pause to signal the transition. When you listen to a recording of a language that you don't speak, you hear a continuous stream of sounds that is more a warbling than a string of discernible words. We only learn when one word stops and the next one starts over time, by virtue of certain verbal cues. For instance, different languages have different general principles of inflection, the rise and fall of a voice within a word or a sentence, and syllabification, the stress pattern of syllables, combined with actual semantic knowledge. Very young children can make mistakes that shed light on how the process actually develops. People immersed in an environment with a new language often initially experience the same thing: a lack of clear ability to tell what words exactly should properly emerge from the sounds that are being spoken. A common cause of Mondegreens, in particular, is the oronym, word strings in which the sounds can be logically divided multiple ways. Bohemian Rhapsody becomes Bohemian Rap City as a result of incorrect parsing of sounds when context or prior knowledge is lacking. Mondegreens are funny, of course, but they also give us insight into the underlying nature of linguistic processing and how our minds make meaning out of sound. In fractions of seconds, we translate a boundless blur of sound into sense. It comes naturally, easily, effortlessly. We sift through sounds, activate and reject countless alternatives, and select one single meaning out of a myriad of homonyms, near matches, and possible parsings. Even though speakers may have different accents, pronunciations, intonations, or inflections. And in the overwhelming majority of instances, we get it right. To gain a better appreciation of how complex that constant, instantaneous, interpretive dance is, consider the problems of speech recognition software, which, despite recent improvements, still usually generates a mix and muddle of whatever a user was trying to say. Our brains are exceptional creators of logical meaning, even when it's not quite the intended one. Who knows? Maybe in the future, some avant-garde poet will finally pen a verse to that most lovely of women, Lady Mondegreen.